Hello parents and students, welcome to the 6th grade. My name is Josh Bauer, I'm the 6th grade teacher here. This has started my 17th year at Garden Homes. I also taught 4 years before that down in Houston, Texas, so I'm starting my 21st year of teaching 6th graders and pretty excited about it. Hopefully it'll be kind of back to normal this year. We'll find out what the good Lord has planned for us as we go through this. There's a number of things I want to cover for you in this video. I'll show some of it on the screen in a second, and then just a little introduction that's going on here. One of the big things for 6th graders is making sure they're organized and their homework is done. So every day on the board, I'm going to have the assignments written out like this. Here's what we're going to do today, here's what the assignment's going to be, here's the pages we're on, and things like that. Now I'm going to give all of your students a student planner, an assignment book if you want to call it that. It has all the days and the months on it here. And so what I'll teach the kids on the first week of school is how to fill this out and make sure that they have all their assignments written in it. So you can just see it's just a normal calendar with the things in it. Now on the far right side here is a little place for teachers' comments or parents' initials. Guys, I'm going to leave that up to you. I love to teach responsibility to kids as they get older. They got to own their assignments more. They got to own their reputation and doing their work and take on that responsibility. And yet, parents, if you want to make your kid show you all your assignments that they're done, that's fine with me. So I'm not going to demand it. You know your student really well. If I see a student who's struggling and has some missing work, let's say, I might contact you and say, hey, let's make sure you sign it. Now, the other thing I'm going to give your students is this beautiful blue folder where all the assignments are going to go into it. So at the end of the day, as the year starts rolling, I'm going to make sure, number one, their assignment notebook is filled out, and then number two, all their assignments are stuck in their folder, and I'm going to send this folder home. There's a chance they got all of this done in school, and so they really have no homework, but I still want them to take this folder home so that you as a parent can say, hey, what did you have? And it's written down, and you can say, hey, let me see that, and you can pull it right out of here. And so you could see like here they had an assignment in Christ-Light and an assignment in math and a worksheet in science, and then right here for history I wrote quiz. So we took a quiz in class, let's say. There obviously wouldn't be a piece of paper for history that's in there. But for the most part, guys, we're going to have 6, 7 assignments a day. Okay? The other thing that we're going to do this year is a lot of memory work, and I'm going to show you how memory work works. Now to do that, I'm going to go to my screen now, so my pretty face is going to go away and I'm just going to be at my screen showing you a few other things that I think are really important for the school year. So parents, here's an example of what memory work is going to look like. I will give your students this memory work packet, which has every day of the school year and what they have for memory work that goes along with our Christ-Light and our catechism lessons. So you can see the first few days as we get into the school year, there's no memory work as I teach your child what memory work looks like and how to go through that. If you were looking at the board, I had this one written down for an assignment, Genesis 1:1 and Hebrews 11:3. So we'll have studied creation this year in our Christ-Light story, and now we're going to get the memory work the next day on creation. So what I'll do at the end of my Christ-Light lesson, I'll go, okay kids, let's look up Genesis 1:1. And they'll look it up and it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Then we'll look up Hebrews 11:3. By faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command so that what is seen was made out of what was visible. Was not made out of what was visible. So those are the passages that we will go through because it relates to our lesson. Now the next day at 8 o'clock when our school day starts, that's what the kids will have for memory work. Okay, so this is what will come on their desk the next day at 8 o'clock. You can see I just have the passages there. I have 2 on each one. I just rip them in half and give one to the kid. And so the students will have a choice. They have to do one out of these 2 assignments. So they can either do Genesis 1:1 or they can do Hebrews 11:3, whichever one they want. They want extra credit, they could do both of them. But they could write in here Genesis, and then they would write in the 1 and the 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So you can see it's just fill in the blank. And so we'll start our day with memory work. Those of you who have children that are have been in the school in the past, you know that memory work's a part of it. Lots of times they'll say it orally, and lots of times it'll be like an every other day thing with Christ-Light. In 6th grade, it's every day, but it's written out to go a little bit faster. Okay, so that's memory work. Here's some other things that I'd like to make sure you understand. Registration is August 9th from 5 to 8 p.m. or August 10th from 9 to 12 in the morning. What you'll do is you'll come to our school. Mr. Harvey is going to be giving group presentations about all the different changes and things you need to know. He's going to do that on the hour. So there's going to be a presentation that starts at 5, there's going to be a presentation that starts at 6, and there's going to be a presentation that starts at 7. You'll sit through that, and then you can afterwards come up and visit the classroom. Now if you show up at, let's say, 5:45, you feel free to come up to my classroom first, ask any questions you might have, and then get downstairs by 6 o'clock to do the group presentation with Mr. Harvey. I believe he's going to do it in the church. My classroom is room number 214. If you're walking down the hall from the main entrance, it'll be the far one at the end of the hall on the right. You'll go past his office, you'll go past 8th grade, the library, and then you'll hit me. Okay, when you come into my classroom, if you want to bring your school supplies, feel free to bring your school supplies. If you have any questions you want to ask me, great. Give me a high five, things like that. I'll have a lot of the information that I've talked about here printed out for you and things like that. Okay, other things I'd like to make sure you understand as we go through this is the school supply list. One of the things with the school supply list that I have on there that I'm going to try to find for you on my school supply list and what I did with it. Here it is. Sorry for a second. Here comes my school supply list. One of the things I want to stress with the school supply list is this is what your child needs to be successful. He needs something to write with, or she needs something to write with: pencils, pens, but only blue or black. Please don't allow your kids to bring those goofy colored gel pens and things like that. They become more of a distraction. You need gym shoes to play at recess. These will be left at school so that they keep our gym floor clean and well respected. If your child is involved in an after school, let's say AAU thing, and he needs his basketball shoes or she needs her basketball shoes, that's fine. They can take them home. But what we're trying to do is say shoes are meant for the gym only. We don't want them wearing those shoes outside, getting gravel in those shoes, and then playing at recess and tearing up our gym floor with them. Okay? I take a lot of notes with the kids, and so what I try to teach them is I want a notebook for religion, I want one for science, I want one for history, and I want one for catechism. And so that's why we want 4 spiral notebooks that they can take notes in. Earbuds, but please nothing fancy. Go to the dollar store, buy a cheap pair of dollar earbuds, just so that it's not a temptation from some other students to take those things or like that. We can have the ability with everything being online to listen to those things. And then a little 1-inch 3-ring binder so that they can keep track of things. Mrs. Bauer, especially with her English and reading stuff, puts a lot of things that she wants the kids hanging on to in a little 3-inch binder. Okay, that's what your child needs to be successful. The rest of this is optional. And if you're going to get any of these things, I'm just going to throw them in a big bin in my classroom, and the class can use those things. So we get to an art class and we need crayons. I'm going to pull out my bin of crayons, and the kids are going to help themselves to those bin of crayons. So that's why I say for classroom supply. These are just going to go into the everybody can use them kind of thing. I already have a lot of this stuff from over the years, so I tried to keep it nice and short. Necessities, optional if you want to donate to the class. Please try to keep everything else out of the desk. You know your child better than I do, but 20 years of teaching has taught me the more things we bring into our desk, the more distractions we have. A lot of kids like to have, floofy little fuzzy things on their pens and stuff, and then they spend their whole day playing with the floofy things on their pens. So as much as you could help me out, that it's basic and to it. Okay, other things I'd like to stress with you. We keep grades on what's called GradeLink. Every Monday after the school year gets rolling, I'm going to print off what we call a progress report, their current grades. I'm going to send that home on a Monday after school. That'll come home in that blue folder. Please look at it and sign it. Now, that'll let you know how your child is doing once a week. You will have GradeLink logins. You've already been onto that because that's how we did our registration process. You can check their grades every single day. And I would really encourage you to get in the habit of looking at their grades and being on top of it. Not that you need to be on your kids and say, I can't believe you got this, but just if your kids know you're checking their grades, they're much more eager to make sure they're on top of things with those things. But please look for a progress report. The first week, maybe even the second week, I won't send one home because we don't have that many grades yet, but once the school year gets rolling, look for those things. Every once in a while, I forget it, and so your kid might say, they didn't give us one today, and that might be true, but in the most part, if they say, hey, where's your progress report, and they say, I didn't get one, feel free to text me and find out if that's true or not, but I try to do that to stay on top of it, and it's easy for the parents to just glance at a piece of paper. Okay, the other thing is our college that trains the teachers, Martin Luther College, is going to send me a student teacher. So Miss Huffman is a senior in college. She's going to spend 10 weeks in our classroom learning from the students and learning from me what it means to be a teacher. So by the time this school year gets running, she's going to show up just after Labor Day, and she's going to be here until just before Thanksgiving. And she will teach a class here and there at the beginning, and then as she progresses and gets some skills, she'll start to become more of like a full-time teacher, teaching 3 or 4 of the lessons a day, just so you're prepared for that. If a child comes home and says, hey, Miss Huffman did this, you know who Miss Huffman is. She's a student teacher that we're getting into. A couple other things I'd like to stress with you. Number one, at the top of this page that you're looking here on the right side of your screen is what we call the Love and Logic classroom. It's how I run my classroom. It's our management or discipline system. Number one there, as we go down this bullet list, I'll treat the child with respect so that they'll know how to treat me. I will do everything in my power not to embarrass a kid, to teach them how to conduct themselves as fine young men and women as they go through life. Number two, the rule in the classroom says feel free to do anything that doesn't cause a problem for anybody else. And we'll spend a lot of time what causes problem for everybody else. But it's really just one general rule of what happens in the classroom so that I can cover everything with that. 3 there says, if you cause a problem, I'll ask you to solve it. So I was a distraction in math class. The teacher's going to come to me and I'm going to say, hey, you're causing a distraction in math class. What do you want to do about that? We all make mistakes. We're all sinful human beings. I'm hoping to catch them all as their little small things, and so small problems have small solutions to that. I'm just going to teach the kid to own those responsibilities and keep cruising on with life. If the child decides that they can't solve the problem or don't want to, then I'm going to do something, and then I'll just pick the consequence with it. What I'd like to stress here is what I do will depend on the special person, the special situation. Currently, I have 28 unique individuals signed up for 6th grade, which means 2 kids might do the exact same thing, and I might give them 2 different consequences because they're 2 different people. And so I'm going to try to get to know them and find out what would be a consequence that'll bring a little bit of sting into their life so that they are, less likely to do it again. Okay, the last one is, who else makes mistakes in the classroom? Is me. And so if a child ever thinks I did something that's unfair, they're allowed to whisper to me, I'm not sure that's fair, and we're going to talk about it. In other words, I might have thought your child was the one that was talking, and it was really the person sitting next to them. And I might try to say, hey, what are you going to do about talking in the classroom? And they might say, hey, I think you got the wrong kid here. Now, what do I want them to do? I want them to whisper that to me. I want them to be respectful, just like they want me to be respectful to them. But parents, I'm going to be the first to admit I make mistakes. And I'm going to encourage them to help me out with those. Now, if your child ever comes home and says, you're not going to believe what Mr. Bauer did today, the first thing I'd like you to do is go to this rule and say, did you talk to him about it? Because lots of times kids were like me when I was a kid. I would come home and I would have done something in school that I know I'm going to get in trouble with. I'm a little bit nervous that the teacher might have called my parents on that, so I quickly go home and I try to tell my parents one side of the story, painting the teacher as the bad person and leaving out all the things that I had actually done. And so parents, if you come home and if a kid says you're not going to believe what Mr. Bauer did and you say, hey, did you talk about it? And they say no, there's a chance they were acting like me when I was a kid trying to get out of trouble. Now, if they say yes, then hopefully we have handled it. If what they tell you says, man, this doesn't sound quite right, parents, I encourage you to give me a call and find out. If I haven't reached out to you ahead of this, it's because I didn't think anything was a big deal that had happened. If your kid says something that you think is a conversation, I'm just going to ask you to do a few things. Number one, pause a little bit, because sometimes when we react real quick, we do things that we might regret later. But number two, when you give me a call, just please do it in private. In other words, As I tell my side of the story, it might sound like we're pitting the child against the parent or the parent against the teacher. We don't want that, right? In everything we do, parents, you and I, we want to be on the exact same team. So give a call, we'll talk it out. If I messed up somehow, great, I'll own that and I'll appreciate that you pointed it out to me. In other words, sometimes I might say something that bothers a child and I had no intention of doing that, didn't realize the way I said it might have bothered your child, and then when I know that, then I know better. But in everything we do, we want to show that we're on the same team. Okay, that's the discipline thing in the classroom. Many of you that have been in our schools for a long time know that. We try to keep a nice calm in the classroom where we can get a lot of educating done. Other things that I think are just really important for students to have a happy, nice day in 6th grade is one, their homework is done. So I already showed you the assignment notebook, I already showed you the homework folder and how that works. For the most part, if a kid works hard in my classroom, he will not have or she will not have much homework to do. I try to give enough time and be able to answer enough questions. If your child has a lot of homework, please reach out to me and say, hey, my kid's doing 2 hours of homework. It'll give us an opportunity to be able to maybe make some changes if your child's really struggling, or give us the opportunity to say, we might not be using our time wisely in the classroom because most kids aren't having any homework, and if your child's having 2 hours, we might need to make some changes that they get their homework done. But if you could get in the habit of checking over that blue folder with them and just say, hey, is it all done? Great. That makes for a happy day when they walk into school the next morning. Almost everything I assign on Monday will be due Tuesday morning when they walk into my classroom. And so when a student walks in the classroom, I expect them to hand me that blue folder with all their assignments in it, teaching these kids to be organized and responsible. Number 2 on this list, be ready for memory work. I showed you what memory work is like. A lot of kids get to school at 7:30, they eat their breakfast, and then they'll review their memory work passages so that when 8 o'clock comes, boom, they're ready to go. Third one, be in the proper school uniform. When we were looking at the supply list here, they had the school uniform here. Mr. Harvey will stress it with you too, but we made a few changes this year. One of the changes we made is we are allowing polo shirts. The other change we made is the color. We've always been blue on the bottom, white on the top. This year we're allowing that light blue. The button downs that you've had in previous years still work, or polo shirts work too. Solid color socks, awesome. You have those things. Okay, a lot of students who wore the button-down white dress shirts last year, they were pretty thin. So a lot of them wore a white tank top or a white t-shirt underneath that. I appreciate that stuff. Just make sure it's plain white. Lots of times kids would wear t-shirts that have, says Nike on it or says something underneath it. Well, when we're in those thin dress shirts, we can see right through those things. And so we don't want to see the words there, or we certainly don't want to see any kind of colored undergarments or things like that. So if they're wearing something underneath that, make sure it's just solid white to go along with that. Okay, the other thing I want to stress down here is electronics. Your child can bring a cell phone into school, and a lot of kids in the upper grades start to carry cell phones. Once they hit the school building, those electronics are powered down. When they walk into my classroom, they're given to me. I'm going to lock them in my closet so we do not have any problems or temptations with them for your child or for any other child. In other words, if a student keeps a cell phone on their person, they're tempted to think about using it. If they sit in their backpack, a different student might be tempted to take it. All those go away when they turn into my closet. At the end of the day, when they head home, I'm going to hand it to them outside. The last thing I'll stress with that is please don't have your child use their cell phone to find out who's picking them up. That should be worked out before school. In other words, hey, you're going to Lighthouse, or hey, I'll be there at 3:30 to pick you up. Then we know all those things. I don't want students saying, hey, Mr. Bauer, can I call to see what I'm supposed to do after school? No, they should know those things. I don't want students using their cell phones while they're at school. If you need to get a hold of your child during the day, that's fine. Just please call the office. Do not call their cell phones. They're not allowed to have those things. Okay, last thing. Here's my cell phone. I will have my cell phone on me all day, but it will be on silent. So it's supposed to vibrate in my pocket, but I'm teaching all day, going crazy at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I don't necessarily get those things. So feel free to text me, but if it's something like, hey, Mr. Bauer, I was going to pick my child up at 3:30, but they need to go to Lighthouse, and you're nervous I'm not going to get that message, feel free to call the office. The office will walk a piece of paper up to me and make sure I get those things. If you want to communicate with me, you're more than welcome. Cell phones with a phone call. Email is really good for me. I'll check my email during the course of the day when I have a break, but I'll definitely check it after school if you want just communication. I love text messages, so feel free to things, but if anything's urgent, I would encourage you to call the school office. After school, obviously, I can turn my phone back onto volume, and then if you want to send a text or things like that, it would work out. Okay, gave you a lot of information. I'm sure questions will arise during the year. As questions arise, please don't hesitate to reach back out to me and say, hey, will you explain something to me, or we're not quite understanding this. If you have any questions, that is also one of the things that registration night is for. It's not that we don't want to spend time up in our classroom with you. Stop in, introduce yourself, and answer any things in general, or if there's something I should know about your child specifically. Mr. Harvey will also cover a lot of other things that are important for you as far as like medications and immunizations and pick up and drop off and things like that. So I'm not going to be redundant. He'll send out and give you your own information with that. But any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you watch this video and you're like, hey, I got some questions right now, you now have my cell phone. If you want to send me your cell phone, I think I called most of them already to remind you of this, but if you want, if you have a different number or anything and want to give that to me, by all means reach out. Looking forward to the school year, and hopefully it'll be a great one. Have a blessed day. Thanks for watching the video.